When it comes down to aerodynamics in the car scene, it gets a little bit tricky. A lot of people either get triggered or a lot of people are perfectly okay with it. And it's like one side or the other. Whenever you mention aerodynamics, people just like get in an uproar. And especially when it comes to putting aero parts on your car, people seem to have their opinions and they are not afraid to express them. And we've seen it all over the place. Aero has become like the thing now. Throughout the last couple of years, especially with the wide bodies coming out on cars, aero has Aero has come along with that. You see it with the big splitters, the big chassis mount wings. You got like the 5 different canards and dive plates up front. You got the rear spats, you got the diffusers, you got the side panels. You got like every little piece of aero you can possibly imagine on vehicles nowadays. And you can argue that yes, a lot of people do it for mostly looks, but on the other hand, people do it for function as well. So I'm Justin from Fitment Industries, and today I'm here to explain and kind of break down individually, piece by piece, what aero exactly is for cars. And before we get into it, don't forget to subscribe. So when we get into talking about aerodynamics and aerodynamics in cars and aero parts, we're gonna be talking about mostly 2 things. We're gonna be talking about drag and we're gonna be talking about aerodynamic pressure, otherwise known as downforce. Now, probably one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to adding aero on the car is that this is gonna make my car go faster. I'm gonna put a big wing on the car and it's gonna make it go faster. Now, that is technically not the case. What you're essentially doing is you're adding more downforce to the car to help it grip the road better during turns and keep it stable when you approach high speeds. Now, these 2 things are gonna go hand in hand. You can't have lift without drag. So the first part of aero that we're gonna get into and really talk about are wings and spoilers. Now, this is probably one of the most common and most known piece of aerodynamics that you can add to a car, and it is also probably one of the most misunderstood pieces of aero you can add to a car. Now, a lot of people will get spoilers confused with wings, and they are actually 2 different things. When you're talking about spoilers, you're talking about a piece of aero that will disrupt the airflow going over a vehicle. Now, when you talk about wings, it is essentially a wing. You're looking at an airfoil, but instead of being like in an airplane or like an under-cambered airfoil, you're essentially flipping that upside down. So instead of creating lift, you're creating reverse lift or downforce. Now, like as I mentioned before, with lift or downforce, as we'll call it from now on, with downforce, you also get drag. As soon as you start adding things to a car that are sticking up from the surface of the car or are extruding more than normal, you are adding drag to the car. Now, both drag and lift or downforce are exponential, meaning the faster that you're going with the car, the more downforce and drag is going to be produced. So when it comes down to adding a wing on your car, you're essentially wanting to get as much downforce as possible, but with as little bit of drag as you can. Now, this can be determined by how you have your wing adjusted. If you have an adjustable wing where you can actually adjust the angle of the airfoil and the angle that it hits the oncoming airflow will determine how much drag versus downforce you have on the car. So essentially what the wing is gonna do is gonna add downforce over the rear end of the vehicle, creating a high pressure area over the back end of the car. So now moving from the back of the car towards the front of the car, we have splitters. Now, what splitters are designed to do is to increase drag on the front end of the car. Now, when you increase the drag on the front end of the car, you essentially build an area of high pressure, which in turn creates downforce before it eventually moves towards the back of the vehicle. Now, as that air moves from the front of the car towards the back of the car, we hit our next component, which are gonna be canards or dive plates. Now, essentially what these are gonna do is further help redirect that high pressure air that we gathered from the front of the car from the splitter and help redirect it down the side of the car. Now, this will also help with downforce as well, since most of the time they are angled downwards, essentially as to why they're sometimes known as dive plates. So with them being angled downwards, it'll help redirect the air not only along the sides, but also up and away from the underneath of the car, which we'll get into later why that is a big deal. So the next part we're gonna talk about is side skirts. Now, side skirts actually play more of probably an important role than you probably think. Now, what side skirts are solely designed to do is help keep that high pressure air that's moving from the front of the vehicle to gather and kind of suck in underneath the vehicle from around the sides. Now, like I mentioned earlier with the canards, keeping that airflow directed upwards and away from the underside of the car, there is a reason for this. And the reason for that being, and why you hear the term downforce so much, is because of the Bernoulli effect. Now, if you think of the Bernoulli effect, you think high pressure versus low pressure. Now, how this plays a role in cars is when you have an area of high pressure and an area of low pressure. Your area of high pressure is going to have low velocity air, whereas the area of low pressure is going to have high velocity air. And with the Bernoulli effect, any high pressure area is going to move to an area of low pressure and vice versa. Any high velocity area is going to try to move to an area of low velocity. So now if you think of an airplane, how an airplane flies is when you have the wing, you have that airfoil, you have the longer distance that it takes for the air to get over the top side of the airfoil than it does for the underside. Now essentially, this is how we want to look at a car, except upside down. You don't want the car to lift off the ground, you want the car to stay planted. So what we need to have is a higher velocity, low pressure airstream underneath the car and a high pressure, low velocity stream above the car. This is going to do the reverse downforce on top of the car, keeping it planted towards the ground. So essentially what these side skirts and canards and everything are doing is keeping that high pressure air from getting under the car where the high velocity, low pressure air is sitting, and keep it balanced. Which brings us to our next part. Now, if you look at a lot of high performance vehicles, specifically like supercars or F1 cars or any kind of racing designed vehicle, if you look at the underside, you'll notice that it is as flat as possible. And they do this either with the design of the vehicle or with the addition of plates on the bottom. Now, if I were to go and look under my FRS, you'll see that it has a tunnel for the transmission where the exhaust kind of runs to. It has a lot of different, with the frame being designed, it's got a lot of, edges that can catch air, it's got a lot of pockets that can catch air, and this causes turbulence under the car, which in turn creates drag, which creates high pressure, which again throws off that pressure imbalance. So what these underplates are designed to do is streamline the bottom of the car, cover the transmission tunnels, cover suspension components as much as it can, or direct air away from them so they can gather and create air pockets and create an area where the air can flow at high velocity and create low pressure. And then moving on to the final piece of aero that we're going to talk about today would be your diffuser. Now again, I feel like this is one of those parts that a lot of people don't necessarily think makes a huge difference, but in turn it actually does. And it ties in a lot with your splitter, your under panels, and then eventually ends up at the diffuser. So the diffuser plays a key role in creating that low pressure under the vehicle. So now we're essentially getting into what is called the venturi effect. So this is essentially when you have an airflow that is running at high velocity and low pressure, just like underneath the vehicle. We have air going at high velocity, low pressure. And this is when that airstream gets diverted into a high pressure, low velocity airflow. Now essentially what this is going to do is when you come from a high velocity, low pressure to a low velocity, high pressure, you are essentially creating a vacuum for underneath the car. Now this is going to help again with downforce, just like everything else, but not in the fact that you're creating drag. It's by the way that it disperses the airflow from underneath the car, creating a vacuum, sucking the car to the ground, and giving you that extra grip and extra downforce essentially. Whether you are doing it mainly for aesthetic or are doing it for function, you want to balance your aero. Not only does it look good, but it is very important when you are using it for function. You don't want to have all of your aero up front, because what you're going to end up doing if it's not balanced in the back is you're going to cause a lot of oversteer on your car, and that goes the same for the vice versa. If you have a lot of downforce in the back end of your car, you're going to cause a lot of understeer up front because you're not having that same amount of force or same amount of downforce exerted throughout the car, so you're not going to have that same amount of grip or same amount of traction up front, whereas if you have a massive spoiler but no other aero up front. So this tax return season, when you're looking at buying some big things for your car, you're buying your part that you've been saving up for a while, whether that be your splitter, whether that be your side skirts, whether that be the big chassis mount wing that you've been looking for a while, keep in mind that if you're gonna do one thing, plan on doing other parts as well. And I personally say this all the time in our From the Gallery episodes: if someone has a massive wing in the back but nothing around the sides, it kind of just, it looks goofy, and you can tell that from when you guys look at cars or from when everyone else looks at cars, that it just looks unbalanced, and naturally is because it actually is, like physically. So So just a few things to keep in mind when you're looking at adding aero to your car. I just want to see you guys do a good job with it. I don't want you to get made fun of at your next car show or your next car meet or your next track day when your massive wing is causing you to fly off the corner because you had no steering control. Just gonna.
Hello?
Hello?
President wants to talk to you, sir.
Hello?
Okay, I'm done.
That phone call was bananas. So hopefully that cleared a few things up for you guys. If you have any more questions, if you'd like to see another video, maybe explaining in depth each part individually, let us know down in the comments below. But until then, I'm Jealous from Fitment Industries. Don't forget to subscribe. And also, we are doing a giveaway with TSW wheels for the month of February. Easiest way to enter, go to the description. We'll link it down below for you to go to fitmentindustries.com, find out all the rules, all the details. Head on over there, see how you guys can win a set of TSW wheels. But until then, I'm Jealous from Fitment Industries, and we'll see you later. Peace.